Hello, everyone. My name is Janine Aguirre, and I'm presenting on the growing connection between gut and mental health. My advisor's name is Dr. Jennifer Trevitt from the psychology department, and I wanted to quickly express my gratitude towards her for all of her help during this entire process. Before I begin, I wanted to quickly introduce myself. So I'm graduating with a major in psychology, two minors, one in chemistry and one in pre-health professions, and a certificate in Spanish for human and health services. Here's a quick overview about what I'll be going over today. So first, I'm going to go over some definitions that are important in order to really understand what my topic is about. Next, I'm going to go over some past research and some background information on this topic. Third, I'm going to present my study and my results. And lastly, I'm going to discuss my results further and future indications for this topic. So first, I'm going to go over some definitions. So the human microbiome consists of about 10 to 100 trillion symbiotic microbial cells, primarily located in the gut. And their purpose is to help digest the food we eat, regulate our immune system, protect us against other bacteria that cause disease, and produce vitamins. They interact with our bodies in an intricate and balanced way. And health problems arise when dysbiosis or imbalance occurs. And this imbalance can occur from illnesses, a course of antibiotics, or poor diet. The enteric nervous system is located in the gut, and it controls gastrointestinal behavior separately from the central nervous system. And it's often called the second brain because it has more neurons in the peripheral nervous system. It has similar cells to the brain. It's interconnected with the immune system. It produces 50% of dopamine and 90% of serotonin. So the vagus nerve connects these two seemingly separate parts of the body, the brain and the gut, and it's crucial for several bodily functions, such as control of mood, immune response, digestion, and heart rate. And even if the vagus nerve was severed, the gut would continue to function since the enteric nervous system is able to function separately from the central nervous system. Lastly, the microbiome gut-brain axis consists of a bidirectional communication between the central and enteric nervous system, and it appears to be bidirectional, namely through signaling from gut microbiota to the brain and from brain to the gut microbiota. And its main role is to monitor and integrate gut functions, as well as to link emotional and cognitive centers of the brain with peripheral intestinal functions and mechanisms. And these include immune activation, intestinal permeability, enteric reflex, and enteroendocrine signaling. Now I'm going to go over some background information and past research. So past research on mental health and gut function show that changes in diet around the world means that populations are now increasingly reliant on highly processed and poor quality foods. And poor quality foods have been linked to an increased risk for mental disorders. And this rising disease burden of mental disorders is an increased global health concern. Conversely, a nutrient-rich diet is understood to be protective of mental health. Mental disorders, including depression and anxiety, are often comorbid with gut problems, and the gut microbiota has been proposed as a key mediator of this link, given its association with both diet and mental health. So past research on optimal gut health have shown that foods containing unsaturated fats, fermented foods, prebiotics, leafy greens, and probiotics have been seen to benefit gut health. And these can be found in foods such as olive oil, kimchi, garlic, leeks, bananas, kale, yogurt, and certain fermented vegetables. So now I'm going to present my study and my results. So my study's purpose was to research whether or not that eating foods that were good or bad for optimal gut health would affect someone's mental health state. Specifically, I studied if an increase in foods that were bad for optimal gut health increase the score on the PHQ-9 scale, which I'll explain a little more a little later. So the participants were ages 18 to 55. They were recruited through social media and Sonos systems, and there were a total of 149 participants who completed the entire survey, and only 122 participants were used for the final data. So the survey was 17 questions, and it consisted of 4 sections. So the first section was the consent form. The second section collected non-identifying sociodemographic information. And the third section and fourth section, they are the ones that I really studied. So the third section was 10 questions regarding participants' specific diets over the past 2 weeks. And each question had 4 options: not at all, several days, more than half a days, and nearly every day. And foods that are bad for optimal gut health were graded positively on the scale, and foods that are good for optimal gut health were graded negatively on the scale. And a total of 4 questions were reverse scored. So section 4 consisted of the patient health questionnaire created by Dr. Kurt. And I'll go over this questionnaire a little further on the next slide. And this also had 4 options: not at all, several days, more than half days, and nearly every day. The results were analyzed using the Pearson R correlation test on SPSS. All the diet variables and all the mental health variables were tested to measure if there was a statistical relationship between the 2 variables. Specifically, I tested the answers more than half the days and nearly every day to see if it had if it had a correlation with an increased score on the patient health questionnaire. So from the patient health questionnaire, 0 participants scored between the scores 0 to 4, which suggests 0 to minimal depression. 4 participants scored between the scores 5 to 9, which suggests mild depression. 39 participants scored between the scores 10 to 14, which suggests moderate depression. 49 participants scored between the scores 15 to 19, which suggests moderately severe depression. And 30 participants scored a score above 20, which suggests severe depression. So in terms of the Pearson R correlation, drinking alcoholic beverages for more than half the day or nearly every day for 2 weeks was seen to have a significant correlation with feeling tired or having little energy. Eating processed foods for more than half the days or nearly every day for 2 weeks was seen to have a significant correlation with feeling down, depressed, or hopeless, and moving or speaking so slowly that other people could have noticed, or so fidgety or restless that you would have been moving a lot more than usual. The lack of eating leafy greens for more than half the days or nearly every day for 2 weeks was seen to have a significant correlation with trouble concentrating on things such as reading or watching television. The lack of eating fermented foods for more than half the days or nearly every day for 2 weeks was seen to have a significant correlation with feeling down, depressed, or hopeless. And the lack of eating foods containing unsaturated foods for more than half the days or nearly every day for 2 weeks was seen to have a significant correlation with little interest or pleasure in doing things and feeling down, depressed, or hopeless. So now I'm going to go over discuss my results a little further and then future indications of this topic. So the results of my study support current literature on this topic, and evidence shows that patients with depression have compositional gut microbiome differences from those of healthy controls. And these compositional differences can result from dietary impacts on the gut microbiome. And foods that benefit gut health are able to do this by producing beneficial bacteria such as bifidobacterium and lactobacillus. So alcohol and depression, my results actually agreed with the current literature on this topic, which I'll go over a little further. So those who showed signs of intestinal permeability from alcohol consumption had higher scores on measures of depression, anxiety, and alcohol cravings, given past research. And alcohol consumptions led to inflammation of the GI tract, which caused an overgrowth of bacteria in the gut. And this causes a depletion of beneficial bacteria, as seen in past research. And for processed foods have been seen to have an increase in bacterial translocation or changes which alter the microbiota of an individual, which promotes dysbiosis and results in an illness such as depression. And processed foods also generate unhealthy signals to the brain, which can manifest as an increase in oxidative stress, increase in cellular degradation, inflammation, and unbalanced energy homeostasis. And this pathology actually contributes to the depression we see from processed foods. So for a high saturated fat diet, these participants were seen to have a higher amount of bacteria that was not beneficial for the gut, while high unsaturated fat diets were seen to have beneficial bacteria in the gut. And these differences in the gut microbiome can produce profound effects on the overall health of an individual. And for fermented foods, the lack of fermented foods cause a lack of the beneficial bacteria and which are seen in healthy individuals. And depleting the body of these beneficial bacteria can promote dysbiosis in the gut microbiota, causing illness in an individual's health, given the past research. So that is all for my presentation, but I did want to add a future indication, which could be that in the future, with this research and becoming more solidified, we can actually find new ways to treat patients with mental health disorders instead of just treating with psychotropics. So once we are able to have enough research on this topic, we'll be able to come up with new solutions to treating these mental health disorders in order to find a more holistic approach. Thank you so much.